Good evening, everyone. My name is Mayor Beverly H. Burks, and this is the work session for Tuesday, September 30th, 2025. We will proceed with roll call, starting with Vice Mayor Johnson.
Present.
Councilman Carroll.
Present.
Councilwoman Bell. She's not here yet. Councilman Perkins.
Present.
Councilwoman Hood.
Present.
And Councilwoman Adi is online. And I recognize our city manager, Shaquia Miller-Thornton. And we'll move from there to public hearings. If you've noticed, what we did was we changed the hearings to now be during the work session. What this allows is the opportunity for you, the public, to give us your feedback, and then gives us enough chance, as well as staff, to take your input and be able to make any corrections or updates. So at this time, I'll start with the Richard Show, as we're going to say, for items A through D, and we'll move to receive public comments on an ordinance to add section 527C6 II to the zoning code to update standards applying to all planned unit developments, known as PUD, regarding homeowners associations, or HOAs.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So on this one, as you were saying, it's just to add the new subsection 2, and that would read, homeowners associations. When approving a planned unit development, the City Council may require that a homeowners association be established for the development, and that the private covenants required by this section subject each lot within the development to membership in such association. When assessing whether a homeowners association should be required for a planned unit development, the City Council shall consider the nature and extent of any shared amenities, infrastructure, or open space within the development, and whether or not a homeowners association is necessary to adequately maintain any shared facilities for the planned unit development. If the City Council determines that a homeowners association is not necessary for such purposes, then such an association will not be required. And on this one, with my discussions with the city attorney, the current language was a little vague on whether it was required or not. And from my research, it looked like staff did err on the side of requiring them based on the ambiguity in the code. So we think this will clear that up and provide a way for you all to vote yes or no on whether that will be required for our PUDs in the future.
Okay.
With that, I turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edwards. And at this time, we will open the public hearing. If you have any comments at this time, whether you have comments for this particular item at this time. Did we have anyone signed up? Okay. Did we have anyone signed up against the PUD? Clerk.
No, Mayor.
Okay, but in the interest of people being here, I'm going to still open it up to anyone who may want to share their opinion on it. Hearing none. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? With that, come on. If you want to come up, come on up and state your name. No, it's not. All right. With that, we will close out the public hearing. We'll move to the next item, which is item 3B, to receive public comments on an ordinance to amend Section 205 of the zoning code to remove the public hearing requirement for the Planning and Zoning Board and clarify public notice requirements. Mr. Edwards.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So on this one, we're looking at Section 205 B1. The first thing in there is we're removing that last sentence that says such meeting shall include a public hearing and following procedures for Section 206, which are the procedures that they would have to follow. And then B2, we're removing the word hearing and putting meeting, and removing a copy of the city manager's report and making that planning and economic development director's report. And then 2, based on recommendations from the Planning and Zoning Commission, we're going to change that to at least 7 days prior to the public hearing, as they saw that it was necessary to have a codified requirement to have it on the website within a certain amount of time. And then B3 is going to be a new section that shall read, the applicant shall post a sign or signs provided by the city in a conspicuous place on the property a minimum of 15 calendar days prior to the public meeting that shall comply with the following requirements. I, be readable from each street on which the property fronts, or if the property has no street frontage, from each street from which access will be gained. Two, I'm sorry. Clearly indicate the following information. A, present zoning classification of the property. B, proposed zoning classification or special use, date and time. And C, location of the public hearing. And 3, be maintained by the applicant to prevent removal from the property or destruction. And Planning and Zoning Commission also recommended a 4B, that written notice to adjacent and nearby property owners be sent via letters to all property owners within 300 feet. And based on the staff recommendation and Planning and Zoning recommendation, the only thing we're changing with this is we're making it a public meeting, so we would not have to advertise this within the cab champion, so it would save the city a little money on that. And with, in the back of your packet here on page 14, we are updating the zoning calendar as well. Planning and Zoning Commission has already approved this to where, for example, if they were to go to Planning and Zoning this month, they would not come to City Council until the following month at the end of the month. So that gives citizens and staff and you all time to review, make decisions, and ask any questions to make sure that we're not rushing these zoning cases and we're getting the best possible results.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Edwards. With that, we will now open for public input. Clerk Mitchell, did we have anyone signed up for this item?
No, Mayor.
For or opposed? Okay. With that being said, I will open it up to anyone here in the public if they would like to speak on this particular item. Anyone like to speak on this item? Anyone would like to speak on this item? Anyone would like to speak on this item? With that being said, we said 3 times, and now that is closed for the public hearing. We'll move to the next item, which is to receive public comments on a development proposal in the Clemsil Overlay District with a concurrent variance from Section 540A to not require a 5-foot sidewalk along a local street at 1212 Pat Davis Drive, FKA 3637 Lincoln Street, parcel ID 18119020004. Mr. Edwards.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So on this one, the purpose of this application is to seek approval for the construction of a 1-story single-family residence on a vacant parcel located at 1212 Patricia Davis Drive, which was formerly known as 3637 Lincoln Street, as required under Section 319N of the zoning ordinance. So this one right here, they're also asking for a variance to not install the 5-foot sidewalk along the frontage of this property. And the impact on this, the proposed development complies with all zoning and overlay standards, including setbacks, building coverage, floor area ratio, unit size, and parking. Your architectural elements include smooth lap siding, stucco veneer.
Recording in progress.
And architectural asphalt shingles that meet the design requirements of the Clemsil Overlay. And the applicant is also requesting to forego the installation of the 5-foot sidewalk along Patricia Davis Drive, citing the absence of sidewalks throughout the Clemsil neighborhood. On this one, staff is recommending approval of the development review and denial of the variance request from Section 540A to not install sidewalks along the local street, as it does not meet the requirements listed in our zoning code for approving a variance. And on this one, Planning and Zoning Commission voted 5-0 to approve the development review, and they voted 3-2 for denial of the sidewalk variance. I will turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Edwards. And at this time, did we have anyone signed up for these 2 items? But we'll open it up to the public. At this time, this is Clemsil. So if you want to come talk, you can come talk. State your name.
Sign up. Marty Wynn, 3601 Triple Street, Clarkston, Georgia. I'm here to request that the 5-foot sidewalk in the Clemsil neighborhood be denied, not be installed. We've never had sidewalks in this community. Even back when it was established in the early 1800s, late 1900s. And if the sidewalks are not installed, it will keep it in the community character from when it was originally installed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak on this particular item?
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Davis, and I live in the Clemsil neighborhood. Been there for 70 years, and I have a statement and a question, because all of my life we've lived over there, and the streets are not that wide. I just want to know if the people who suggested that we have sidewalks, if they've been over there to look at the situation, because the streets are so narrow, and I don't think that we need sidewalks. I believe if it was a newer subdivision, then it would be fine to do that. But it's an old neighborhood, and it's quaint. We love it like it is. So I'm just saying, I heard that the sidewalks were for safety. I've never heard of any child getting killed, anybody getting ran over by a car, or, well, one dog, my dog got ran over when I was a child.
Should have
But
stayed in the
that's
sidewalk.
all. So I'm just saying, we do not need sidewalks for safety.
Okay.
So thank you very much, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. With that, are there any other comments? Any other comments? Any other comments? Hearing none, then this item is closed for the public hearing, and we move to D, which is to receive public comments on a planned unit development PUD, planned residential development proposal to construct 13 single-family homes at 905, 911, 917, 929, and 935 Mill Avenue, parcel ID 1809710 048, 047, 046, 059, and 050. Mr. Edwards.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So on this one, the applicant is requesting approval of a planned unit development for 13 single-family homes on approximately 2.07 acres. While the development generally complies with the underlying NR3 zoning standards, the applicant is requesting a modification to the minimum lot widths, proposing that 3 lots be at 30 feet wide and 10 lots at 36 feet wide. The request is intended to maintain compatibility with the surrounding single-family neighborhood character, while utilizing the flexibility provided by the PUD process. The proposed PUD does offer a lower intensity development than what is permitted by right under the NR3 zoning district. There is a reduced FAR at about 0.27. The lot coverage is under 35%, and fewer total units than the maximum allowable density, which is more compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. While the lot width is narrower than the NR3 neighborhood, the proposal exceeds standards in lot size, setback, and building height, supporting a more spacious and visually cohesive streetscape. The PUD tool allows for minor dimensional flexibility in exchange for an overall design that aligns with the established character and scale of the surrounding area. And on this one, staff is recommending approval of the PUD with the following conditions. 1, the development shall be substantially in compliance with the site plan dated April 10th, 2025. 2, the architectural elevation shall be substantially in compliance with the Newberry plan dated November 11th, 2024, and the Rosemont plan dated August 8th, as submitted as part of this packet. 3, the development shall contain a 5-foot landscape strip and a 5-foot sidewalk as required in section 540A. And on this one, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 5-0 approval, with a 4th additional condition being no HOA shall be required if there are no shared amenities, infrastructure, or open space. And with that, I will turn it back over to the mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edwards. And now, Clerk Mitchell, did we have anyone to sign up for this one?
No, Mayor.
And I'll open it up to the public if the public would like to speak on this particular item. If the public would like to speak on this particular item. Yep.
Can we just do a thumbs up?
Thank you.
That's my comment.
Okay.
I can't comment.
There you, okay. All right. Public, if you want to say something, that's fine. You don't have to.
Just say it at the mic.
Yep.
I'm Debbie Gathman. I'm across the street from it. I'm for it.
Thank
It's going
you.
to be wonderful.
All right. Anyone else for it? Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? With that being said, public hearing is officially closed, and we'll move into section 4, which is public comments. Any member of the public may address the council during the time allotted for public comment. Each attendee will be allowed 3 minutes for comments at the discretion of the presiding officer. The public comment time period will be limited to 40 minutes, and it is not a time for dialogue. If your public comment contains a series of questions, please submit those to the city clerk in writing. This will facilitate follow-up by the council or staff. The City Council desires to allow an opportunity for public comment. However, the business of the city must proceed in an orderly, timely manner. Now we will move to Section 5, which is presentations, administrative business, and we will start with the presentation of the Clarkston Housing Summit 2025 recap by the Atlanta Regional Commission, headed by Kristen Allen.
Hello, thank you for having me, Mayor and Council. My name is Kristen Allen. I'm with the Atlanta Regional Commission, and the Atlanta Regional Commission worked with Clarkston on a Community Development Assistance Program project, a grant project through the ARC to do a housing summit, to basically kind of initiate some further conversation with the community on housing in Clarkston and to get feedback from the community that would later inform policies as we kind of continue to work through this process. Is there a clicker?
Well, just say next.
Okay, great. So Atlanta Regional Commission, we oversee and help 11 counties in the region with planning, and our goals for housing fall under healthy, safe, and livable communities in the Atlanta metro area. Next slide, please. So this, as I mentioned, this is a CDAP project. So this is a project that aligns with ARC's goals to place priority on projects that advance equity and climate resiliency, and housing fits into that program. Next slide, please. The Housing Summit process, this was held back in August of this year. So the first part of the summit, there were basically 2 parts to the summit, and then there was a report out. So the Clarkston Housing Data Trends was the first portion. There was a community roundtable discussion, which was the second portion, and then the recap and report out was the third. So this is the initial housing summit. Next slide, please. So I'll go through briefly the data presentation that ARC presented during the summit. Next slide, please. We went through basic information on home sale prices and the difference in different housing types. Condominiums, the average sale price was around $126,000 with a high price of $355,000. You can see for townhomes, it was a bit higher than that. $276,000 was the average, and single-family homes, the average sale price $289,000, with a high price for some of the newer construction of $660,000. The median home sale price increased 67% in Clarkston from 2018 to 2023, and the median square foot price increased 80%. Next slide, please. We also looked at area median income and affordability. So if you look at the region, the area median income is around $114,000 for a family of 4. We looked at the median household income for Clarkston, which is $46,495. And so if you calculate that against the area median income, that's between 40 and 60% of the AMI. So what we wanted to do was understand what affordable rents would look like in Clarkston, as opposed to what the average rent is. So the average rent, if you look at the top from Zori, is around $1,465 a month. And the affordable rents range from $600 a month up to $1,788. So there are rents that fall within that range in Clarkston due to some housing vouchers and things like that, but overall, that rental rate has been pushing up toward the higher end. Next slide, please. So key takeaways from Clarkston's people and households. Clarkston is younger than the county and the metro area. We've also seen a growth in senior households and young families in Clarkston. And Clarkston has more large families than the county or the MSA. And there are older homes and housing stock than both the county and the MSA. So we've seen a growth in children under the age of 15 and 25 to 34, growth in senior populations, and a growth in 2- and 4-person households. Next slide, please. A few more key takeaways from Clarkston's people and household. The household size in Clarkston is larger for both renter and owner-occupied households than the county or the MSA. So there are slightly larger households in Clarkston. There are also more family households. 69% of the households in Clarkston are family households, compared to 57% for DeKalb and 66% for the metro area. And then lastly, there is more evidence of crowding in Clarkston, where there are more people per household. So 18% versus 2.8% in DeKalb and 3.5% in the MSA. Next slide, please. A few more key takeaways. This is for Clarkston's housing units. Rental housing comprises 85% in Clarkston, which is greater than DeKalb and the MSA. And the total number of housing units is just over 5,000, so 5,296. The vacancy rate for apartments is almost 15%, which is typically higher than DeKalb and the MSA. And as far as diversity of housing types, the majority are apartments, 4,179, compared to single-family homes, 463, and 80% are apartments. If you look over in the chart on the right, roughly 79 to 80% are apartments, and 9% are single-family homes, 4% are multifamily homes, and 8% are 3 to 4 unit homes. There is great housing diversity in different housing types in Clarkston. And if you look at the rental class, we noted that there were quite a few more Class C apartments. Class B and Class C were the largest amount, where Class C are typically older and not as in as great condition. Class B may be older, but in a little bit better condition. So those were the majority of the quality rankings for the rental units. Next slide, please. So growth in housing characteristics, most of the apartments were built in the 1970s, followed by the 1980s and 1960s, so a lot of older apartments. Next slide, please. And for AMI and affordability, one thing we noted in the data presentation is that the census Bureau data shows an increase in cost-burdened households among owners without a mortgage and renters. The reason we pulled this data out for discussion is owners without a mortgage are typically seniors who own their home outright. The largest percentage, I think almost 70% of those owners that do not have a mortgage are seniors. And so what we're seeing is less ability for people without a mortgage to afford housing costs, and also the renter households. So those are two groups within Clarkston that are more strained with their housing costs. Next slide, please. So after the data discussion, we went into the Summit Roundtable discussions, where we posed questions and heard back from the community on a variety of issues, which we will recap in the following slides. Next slide, please. So we provided the participants of the Housing Summit with a workbook with several questions. So some of these questions were, if you look at changes from past to current in Clarkston and at projected growth in the region, what are top housing opportunities and challenges here? And then secondly, if you could make a housing change in your immediate neighborhood, what would that be? What changes might you make across the city? And would these changes benefit current residents and future residents? So we used charts and workbooks to collect feedback from the groups for their comments and their thoughts on these topics. Next question, or next slide, please. So this is a recap of what we heard from the comments from the community. So what are the top housing challenges in Clarkston? The top at almost 70% was housing unaffordability, followed by the quality of housing stock. Other topics that came up at close to 40% were landlord accountability, the need for diverse housing types, rent that exceeds that area median income that we discussed, and senior housing needs and challenges. So these were some of the top challenges that we heard from the community. Next slide, please. And these are some of their words from the chart, and these will be available for people to review, but we pulled out a few kind of key comments from each slide. So for example, can you build tiny homes on our yards? Lack of rental assistance, and older residents are being priced out. A few from this slide. Next slide, please. We also heard some comments like, how can we add recreational space for kids? How can we protect them? redo zoning codes to make it easier to build missing middle homes, poor quality rental units, there were a lot of them. Next slide, please. So the next question, what are the top housing opportunities in Clarkston? Services and amenities and recreational access, along with expanding local economic and employment development, were the top 2 opportunities. So the first one talks about kind of access from housing to recreation or different amenities such as businesses or services. The second is around expanding local economic development. The next one at 38.5% was increasing housing variety and supply, followed by strengthen government involvement, invest in youth-focused initiatives, and strategic boundary adjustment or annexation. Next slide, please. So some of the comments from that section included innovation, community, potential for the construction of new homes, apartment complexes. Because Clarkston is younger, we need more children's recreational areas, and economic development to increase quality of life, such as jobs and resources. Next slide, please. And a few more comments from that section were updates to comprehensive plan to increase density, we need more services, and incentivize apartments to renovate but somehow keep the residents. Impossible, but a dream anyway. Next slide, please. And if you could make a housing change in your immediate neighborhood, what would that be? The one that ranked the highest here was improving environmental quality and public amenities, followed by strengthening landlord accountability and oversight, expanding the overall housing supply, and providing diverse and needs-based housing options. Next slide, please. And some of these comments included land trust with safeguards for gentrification, raising awareness of renters about their rights as renters according to the contract, amenities such as women's center plus affordable childcare, and relaxing the code to increase the building permits. Next slide, please. Also, green space in the neighborhood for my kids to play when crossing the road, filling in some empty lots with cottage courts, and allowing ADUs and house rooms for rent. Next slide, please. And some of the miscellaneous themes that were not exactly aligned with those questions, but they came up in the conversation, were an accessible downtown, reducing setbacks and zonings, diverse choices and prices offered like tiny homes, cottages, duplexes, live, work, and housing downtown. Next slide, please. And then lastly, there were comments around accessibility, some things that we can learn from as ARC working in a community with different languages that we also discussed among our project management team, such as indicating if someone needed space in the sign-up sheet, indicating that they would need a certain language, short feedback with 2 questions to improve kind of how we get feedback from it, and then introducing the interpreters. So there were definitely some things around language and interpreters that we took from the feedback as well for accessibility. Next slide, please. So then we moved on to the mini summits, and we held 2 different mini summits. Next slide, please. The first mini summit was at Sage Point Apartments, and this is a photo of the setup that we had at that location. Next slide, please. And the second mini summit was 916 Montreal Road. Next slide, please. So we had 4 boards, so 3 of these were for feedback from the people who attended the mini summits. And so the first board was to really gauge what their top housing priorities were, and they did this using dots to vote on the boards. So I'll read off some of the ones from the highest priority, but we had most, medium, and least priority. So housing unaffordability tied with condition of housing and housing near parks and recreation space for the highest priority. So those 3 really mirrored what we heard in the initial summit. We also heard the need for more housing overall and for economic development right behind that. Next slide, please. The next board asked if the person could change housing in Clarkston, how should housing change? And so the one that ranked the highest here was improve the quality of older apartments, followed by kind of a tie between ensuring different housing costs and improving access to parks and recreation. And then followed by build more housing, then add senior housing, and then lastly, ensure different sizes of housing. Next slide, please. We also asked on the third slide the preferred housing types so that people could vote on what housing type would keep them in Clarkston over the next 10 years. So homeowners For people who wanted to own their home, they preferred single-family and cottages, followed by townhomes and then condominiums. And for renters, the 2-bedroom apartment was preferred the most by people who participated, followed by a 1-bedroom, and then there were some that selected the 4-bedroom. And then there were some comments that were put on sticky notes on the boards, such as need higher quality, safety and good condo associations, maintenance and healthy finances, tiny homes, affordable, plus to meet permanent building engineering standards. Rent is high where the size of apartments is very small. Sometimes the rent is the same as a 2-bedroom apartment, so need more affordable senior living between $500 to $700 a month, and then senior accessibility such as parking and grab bars. Next slide, please. So we summarized the feedback from all of the summits just to kind of condense everything into the topics that seem to rise to the top the most. So first is to address older housing stock and rentals. So to address condition of housing, rebuilding without displacement, additional affordable housing, and tenant and landlord education. Also increasing affordable options, more and diverse housing, stability for seniors, rental assistance, and increased home ownership. Also increased access to services and recreation, popped up a lot in the feedback, mixed income housing, conversion options, job opportunities and increased services, new homes and apartment recreation areas for children and walkability, and then lastly, policies and programs such as increased housing types and quantity, home rehabilitation, programs for housing assistance, anti-displacement, economic development, and stability and access for seniors and families. Next slide, please. So now we move on to implementation. We have feedback from these summits, so kind of to go through kind of what we heard and how those types of policies can actually be moved into more of an implementation phase. So next slide, please. So implementing the plans, what we did for this slide was listing the comments and things that kind of came back on the left side of the slide, along with different parties that might address those needs on the right side. So to kind of start understanding as Clarkston moves forward in this process, how to move from these recommendations into actual implementation. So for example, the need for new affordable and senior complexes and renovations, the DeKalb Housing Authority and some of these different strategic acquisitions and partnerships can work in that area. Same for services, the Housing Authority and different partners work on those. Rental assistance, some of the planning that is done could help implement rental assistance, and there is an existing housing trust fund that could work for that as well. Rental to owner programs, partners such as Habitat for Humanity, House ATL, different housing partners can kind of help with those renter to owner programs. There are also policies such as inclusionary zoning, there's light tax, vacancy tax, and incentives that can kind of help with anti-displacement. Diverse housing types could be more like a zoning update, comprehensive plan, connectivity as well could be a planning element. Economic development might be through the Downtown Development Authority or through the LCI planning process. And then incorporating current planning, so current projects that are underway right now or have recently been completed. Clarkston Greenway Stone Mountain Trail Master Plan, the Parks Master Plan, and the City Agriculture Plan, how to incorporate some of the, what was learned in those plans into these housing decisions. Next slide, please. So we also wanted to go through some tools and planning opportunities. So we mentioned the Downtown Development Authority and the Housing Trust Fund. A lot of these are actually tools that Clarkston has in place that could be activated towards some of these policy development. So the Downtown Development Authority has a lot of different tools that can be used to kind of bring about some of these things that the community has asked for with housing, as well as the Housing Trust Fund. Code enforcement and inspection policy are important, especially with some of the older apartments, as is education and tenants' rights. And their potential financial tools, federal qualified opportunity zones. Clarkston does have two, although those are, I'm not sure that they will be around past 2026, but they're in place right now. DeKalb County does have a land bank, which is another option for looking at for anti-displacement measures and ownership, tax allocation districts and historic properties, and tax credits for historic properties. So that is also something that I know there are discussions about in Clarkston for historic properties, and that also ties in with some of these housing needs and what the community has said. Next slide, please. Also, Clarkston zoning, this is another place to look for things that could be tweaked. or modified to kind of bring about some of these things the community has asked for, which could be housing closer to amenities, smaller housing types, and things like that. Next slide, please. And also some high-level ideas for implementing policy to address community feedback. So a lot of the discussion was around the older apartments and anti-displacement measures and their policies, such as inclusionary zoning, that can help ensure that there are affordable units in new developments. It might be increasing the funding and capacity of the housing trust funds for stability. Could be potential anti-displacement measures like community benefits agreements, land trusts and land banks, increasing partnerships, reducing regulatory barriers to increase and encourage for-sale ownership of smaller homes, further encourage ADU development such as expedited plan review or pre-designed, or consider adding residential uses to non-residential areas. For example, mixed use and small residential apartments and townhomes. So those are kind of high-level ideas that the city could move into kind of in the next phase of really looking at the feedback and how that feedback moves into actual policy consideration. Next slide, please. Again, looking at some of the past planning, some of the things that came out of the Clarkston Greenway study, or pairing that trail development with anti-displacement strategies. So there are recommendations in that plan, aligning with the comprehensive plan and the LCI housing policies, tying some of the funding sources, such as ones through the ARC or GDOT, to affordability goals, and then using city tools to preserve and expand affordable housing. And then also the comprehensive plan talked about expanding housing options and affordability, improving quality and accessibility, and using land use tools for density and diversity. So there are plans that are out there already that have some recommendations, and I understand the comprehensive plan will be updated soon, so that's another opportunity. Next slide, please. And so finally, the next steps that I'll leave you with from this summit process was the upcoming Clarkston Comprehensive Plan is a way to take what we learned through this feedback and kind of understand where we are and what came out of the feedback and help move that into actionable policy work that can be done, put in the comprehensive plan to be completed over the next 5 years. ARC does have other options through the Community Development Assistance Program. Their options could be setting up a housing task force to have community members actually determine how those comments and feedback from the community become more specific policies. And that also could happen with a housing assessment through the CDAP program. And then lastly, ARC definitely recommends application for the 2026 Livable Centers Initiative Plan for Clarkston. That's a grant-funded plan that really could be helpful, in our opinion, for bringing these different plans that have happened, including the housing summits, together and putting them into concrete recommendations for the next 10 years to help implement these strategies. Next slide, please. So that finishes the recap of the housing summits and the mini summits. So thank you so much again for the opportunity to work with Clarkston. It's been a fantastic community to work with. And really, I know that there's a lot of momentum here and really excited to see it. Okay.
Thank you so much. At this time, we do have you down for 7F to discuss the recap. So we can wait for questions, but just right now, just to have the presentation. Okay, thank you. We'll now move to item 5B, which is the presentation of the unaudited finance report for fiscal year 2024 by our finance director, Ms. Hammond.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
In your packet, you have the unaudited balance sheet as well as the unaudited statement of expenditures and revenue. We created a narrative to kind of go over everything. If you look at the general fund balance sheet, the cash balance at year end was $5,262,470.71. Total assets at year end were $5,907,182.44. Total liabilities at year end were $1,877,837.86. The fund balance unreserved was $3,792,347.26. Total liabilities, deferred inflows, and fund balance was $5,907,182.44. Looking at the grant fund, total assets at year end were $334,661.61. Total liabilities, deferred inflows, and fund balance at year end was $334,661.61. The ARPA fund had a cash balance at year end of $1,166,289.43. Total assets at year end were $1,327,789.43. Total liabilities, deferred inflows, and fund balance were $1,327,789.43. Our SPLOST revenue and construction account had a cash balance of $9,388,821.29. The capital construction at year end was $2,505,568.19. Total liabilities, deferred inflows, and fund balance was $9,388,821.29. Non-major governmental funds, which includes city seizures and federal seizures, had a cash balance of $209,164.69. Total liabilities, deferred inflows, and fund balance were $209,164.69. There are several notes that we want to bring to your attention. The fund balance for the general fund will be reduced by $950,000 when the TAN is paid, which will leave a remaining fund balance of $2,842,347.24. Fund balance for ARPA is negative due to deferred revenue not being reclassed for fiscal year '24. We will submit an adjusting entry to the auditors to correct that for the final version of our financial statements. And to note, the fund balance for the SPLOST is all capital. Anything in that account, we will have to pay the maintenance on those items out of the general fund.
Mayor, I have just one question for clarity.
Yes.
With regards to the fund balance for the general fund being reduced by $950,000, was that the TAN for '24?
Yes.
That was due at the end of '24? Okay,
Correct.
thank you. So the 2.8 million was the unaudited fund balance at the beginning of '25?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Moving to the statement of revenue and expenses, the general fund had total revenue at year end of $7,950,331.10. Total expenditures totaled $8,422,484.17. We had a deficiency of $472,153.07. The grant fund had revenue of $419,886.23. Expenditures at year end were $171,640. We had excess revenue of $255,0418. ARPA fund statement of revenue and expenses, you had total revenue of $157,38, which is just interest income that we earned on the account. Total expenditures were $668,470.97. The excess, the deficiency was $668,313.59. And as I said earlier, that will be corrected when we move deferred, the funds from deferred revenue into our revenue account by an adjusting entry. SPLOST revenue and construction had a revenue of $9,233,196.23. Expenditures totaled $2,388,953.13. Got excess revenue of $6,844,243.10. Non-major governmental funds, total revenue of $107,597.05. Total expenditures $9,649.26. Excess revenue of $97,947.79. Are there any questions?
Any questions for, yes, Councilwoman Hood?
So under ARPA funds, that number 668,313 should be in parentheses, is that correct? since it's a deficiency, but it will be fixed?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none. Any questions, or do we have anyone signed up from the public?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Anyone want to speak on this item? Hearing none. Thank you, Ms. Hammond.
Thank you.
We'll now move to Ms. Yolanda for the next three, McGee, to discuss C, which is to discuss the proclamation designating September 15th to October 15th as Hispanic Heritage Month.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. October is going to be busy for us. It's National Hispanic Heritage Month. National Hispanic Heritage Month began in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Lyndon Johnson. It was expanded to a 30-day period by President Ronald Reagan in 1988. For many Latin American countries, September 15th marks the anniversary of their independence from Spain. This list includes Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. This month-long observation runs from September 15th through October 15th. It is an opportunity to learn about the rich history and culture achievements of Hispanic and Latin communities and their significant influence on American society. The 2025 theme for National Hispanic Heritage Month is Collective Heritage, honoring the past, inspiring the future. This theme is chosen annually by the National Council of Hispanic Employment Program.
Thank you. Council, did you have any comments? Public, do you have? Oh,
I have
yes.
a question.
Sure.
Do we have programming or anything that we're doing with the proclamation to promote Hispanic heritage, or is that kind of on the plan?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay.
But we'll make sure in terms of next week, we can have a sign off and invite our partners to come as part of that.
A sign off? Okay.
To sign the proclamation, the actual signing of the proclamation.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Hearing none, is that fine for consent? And we'll just have the signing?
Sure.
Okay. Is that fine? Good? Okay. Yep. All right, we'll move to the next one, which is to discuss a proclamation designating the month of October as National Employment Disability Awareness Month. Ms. McGee.
National Disability Employment Awareness Month began in 1945 as National Employ the Physical Handicap Week, a one-week observance to support the employment of disabled veterans after World War II. Over time, it evolved to include people with all types of disabilities, removing physically from the name in 1962 and expanding it to a full month of October. The theme for the 2025 National Disability Employment Awareness Month is celebrating value and talent. This theme emphasizes the significant contribution that people with disabilities bring to the American workforce and economy. The U.S. Department of Labor announced this theme, which also marks the 80th anniversary of the National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and will highlight the achievement of Americans with disability, especially as the nation approaches 250th anniversary in 2026. The official color for Development Disability Awareness Month is orange, symbolizing energy and positivity and promoting the idea that disabilities are not inherently negative. In addition to this main color, the more recent disability pride flags use other colors to represent specific types of disability, including red for physical, gold for intellectual, cognitive, white for non-visible, blue for psychiatric, and green for sensory disability, all on a black background symbolizing remembrance.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the council? Okay, public? Consent? Consent? Councilwoman Hood, consent? Okay, all right. We'll move to the next one, which is to discuss a proclamation designating the month of October as Domestic Violence and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Okay, so October is Breast Cancer Awareness and Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Both are recognized annually in the United States during October to raise awareness, provide resource and support affected individuals and communities. Pink is the color for breast cancer to symbolize hope, show solidarity with those affected, honor survivors, and raise funds for research and patient care. While purple, as you can see, my favorite color, is the color to recognize domestic violence awareness. Purple is the nationally recognized color of domestic violence, representing courage, peace, and dedication to ending violence, which often includes physical, mental, and sexually. While there isn't a single overreaching global theme for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, the American Cancer Society theme is Every Action Counts. The 2025 theme for domestic violence awareness is With Survivors Always. This theme, introduced by the Domestic Violence Awareness Project, emphasized continued support and presence with survivors of domestic violence. Awareness Month is held each October to unite advocates across the nation in their efforts to end domestic violence.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the council? Hearing none. Public? None. While we're talking about this, on October 18th, we are going to have our second annual Survivor Summit, where we highlight both breast cancer and domestic violence. That is with myself and Vice Mayor. And so it will be here in the training room from 12 to 4.
Yes.
So please make sure to put that on your calendar if you don't already have that. Thank you very much. Council, can we have this as consent? Consent? Okay. All right. Thank you all, and thank you, Ms. McGee. We have no old business. We'll move to new business, which will start with 7A, to discuss an ordinance to add section 5 to 7C, 6II to the zoning code to update standards applying to all planned unit developments, and also known as PUD, regarding Homeowners Association HOAs. Mr. Edwards.
All right, thank you, Madam Council. I have nothing else to add on this, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on this proposed text amendment.
Thank you very much, Council. Do we have any questions at this time? None? Do we have any comments? Well, the public already made comments, so we don't need more. With that, I'll close this off. Is there anything else from a legal perspective? We're good?
Yes, I think we're good on this one. If the council believes it's a good policy, we're all good.
Okay. All right, so we can go ahead and vote on this one next week.
Do you want to make it consent since we had a public hearing, or does it have to be?
Do we have to do that?
Well, we've already had the public hearing, so I believe that legally there's no problem with putting this ordinance on the consent agenda.
Okay, is that something the council would like to do? You good? Okay.
There's
Everybody
no more
good?
discussion needed unless someone has something they want to talk about.
Okay. Consent? It is. Thank you. Move to B, which is to discuss an ordinance to amend section 205 of the zoning code to remove the public hearing requirement for the Planning and Zoning Board and clarify public notice requirements. Mr. Edwards.
All right, thank you, Madam Council. I have nothing else to add on this, but I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Okay. So for this one, are we going to have those large signs?
So we just ran out of our old signs, so I will be working for our next cycle to get larger signs posted. It may come with a recommended increase in signage fees for next year's zoning cases, but we want to make sure it's more visible for all citizens to see.
Okay, thank you. And it's going to have designation in terms of like V and everything else when you're thinking about that.
We can make sure that happens, yes, ma'am.
Okay, is that something as far as council?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think no one reads the DeKalb Champion ad, so I think they're kind of useless, waste of money.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. And legally, are we fine?
Yes, the we follow the state zoning procedures law with what we do at the council. And so it's up to us how we want to handle the planning and zoning board's aspect.
Okay, and we already have the 7 days, so we're covered with all of that as well.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Good. Okay, with that, any comments? We already had comments from the public, so is this something that you're okay with consent?
And this is something we don't have any additional, because we changed the public hearing, right? We don't need to.
There are a couple changes we're going to make based on planning and zoning feedback, which I read to you today. So I think if y'all want to put it on consent, that's okay, or if you want to discuss it again, that's fine.
Well, if it's going to be different than what's written here.
Yeah, we have to go,
I think we should have
we
a
have to
hearing.
keep it the same. Okay, regular item. Next, we'll move to C, which is to discuss the development proposal in the Clemsil Overlay District with a concurrent variance from Section 540A to not require a 5-foot sidewalk along a local street at 1212 Patricia Davis Drive, FKA, what is that supposed to be, AKA? 36.
Formerly known as.
3637 Lincoln Street, parcel ID 1811902004.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. On this one, to address some public comment, the Clemsil neighborhood does have some of the smallest streets within any of our neighborhoods without any curbs. So it may look like an eyesore to have a curb and gutter and sidewalk put in there as the only one within the entire historic neighborhood. However, there are no criteria within our zoning code for staff to recommend that. So I have to go by the code. We elect you all to make those decisions and listen to public comment on how we should proceed with development like that.
Okay, thank you. At this time, council, any input as it relates to this item? Yes, Councilwoman Hood.
Yes. I have read the recommendation from staff, and they indicated that there was no hardship here. I think a hardship could be considered the situation where the lot is so shallow, and so putting the sidewalks and the buffer area there would take up a proportionately large part of the front yard. And so I think that from my perspective that this would qualify for approval under our code. And so that's my opinion of this. So I'm in support of this for that reason.
Okay. So you're in support of not having the sidewalk?
Correct.
Okay. Councilman
Yeah,
Carroll.
I agree with that, and also the fact that neighbors have come out and asked for not having the sidewalk, and also the fact that we're in the process of revising the sidewalk code to remove that requirement anyways. I think all those factors would justify granting the variance in this case.
Okay. Anyone else? Councilman Perkins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I understand the rationale behind it, but again, I think we've already required several others to put in a sidewalk under similar circumstances, and my understanding of the hardship side of things is that you can't build something based on the lot, and this isn't an issue of you can't build something on the lot. It's an issue of it's a little bit smaller. So I think just to be consistent with our current code, I mean, we could defer it, change the thing, and then approve it. Kind of same thing we've done with another item on the agenda tonight. But I think in order to be consistent, we shouldn't allow it to go through.
Okay. Any other comments?
I have a
Yes,
comment.
Vice Mayor.
After actually going to the street and measuring it with the measuring tape, a standard street is 18 inches. That street is 14.6. So therefore, if you take from this street, you're gonna encroach a little bit on the property, which is already ours, but it's an eyesore. Nothing is beside it. I don't think Ms. Davis is gonna put anything beside it. And then there's nothing beside it on the other side. It's one house. So to actually use the street and the property for one sidewalk would not be great for a street that is not actually legal. It's not a 2-lane street. It's a lane and a half. The engineer was gonna come. He'll be here at the council meeting to justify that, and that recommendation has already been made. But again, due to the paperwork and the technicality of our zoning, it is a council decision. So I just thought that that would, and plus the owner has already came to us one time not knowing the full idea of what they were doing because they weren't the engineer, and we had to cancel some. They've spent months on this, so this would actually delay production of this house at the expense of the owner. So I don't think a sidewalk should hold them up much longer, and it's something we're working on anyway.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see what
Okay.
Mr. Patricia has to say.
All right, and any other discussion from council? Okay, hearing none, then this will be Councilman Carroll. Thank you. This will be a regular agenda item. Okay, we'll just keep this going. And then the next item, which will be to discuss a plan unit development, PUD, plan residential development proposal to construct 13 single-family homes at 905, 911, 917, 929, and 935 Mill Avenue, parcel ID 18097 10 048 047 046 059 and 050. Mr. Edwards.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. I have nothing further to add on this, but I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Councilwoman Hood.
Yes, I do have some questions, but they relate to speaking to Richard, and so I'll just wait after I speak to him, and then at the council meeting, I'll be more informed.
Okay. So it sounds like this, unless council has any other comments, it sounds like this is going to be a regular agenda item. Is it?
Can we put this on consent?
I mean, I'm okay with consent.
That's the question.
I would be okay with consent because I feel like we asked them to come back with a PUD instead of a variance. They did that. It didn't seem like anyone had a problem with the actual design the last time we saw that. This isn't like the first time we're seeing the design. So, but, obviously consent takes the entire council, so.
A regular agenda item. Thank you all. Well, thank you for your input, and we'll keep it going. So, Mr. Edwards, the last in your series, and that is to discuss an ordinance to add section 16-16 to the city code to establish a fee in lieu of sidewalk construction program.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So on this one, this ordinance would allow the city of Clarkston to create a fund and construct pedestrian infrastructure in a more strategic way citywide by allowing developers to contribute to a dedicated fund in lieu of building sidewalks under certain conditions. The city can better coordinate infrastructure improvements, address physical constraints, and allocate resources towards high-priority pedestrian connectivity projects. The process maintains accountability, ensures that sidewalk-related fees are used solely for enhancing walkability throughout the city. And I do apologize, but we typically read the whole ordinance into effect, so I will start with section 16-16, fee in lieu of sidewalk construction program. A, any development project subject to sidewalk installation requirements pursuant to the City of Clarkston Code of Ordinance may request to satisfy such requirements to the payment of a fee in lieu of physical sidewalk construction. All such requests shall be submitted to, reviewed by, and subject to the approval of the city engineer. B, the following circumstances, if present, shall be considered by the city engineer when evaluating a fee in lieu of sidewalk construction request. 1, there are no existing sidewalks along the block face on the same side of the roadway, and no sidewalk improvements are planned or scheduled for the subject roadway segment. 2, a stormwater drainage ditch or similar public utility facility prevents the installation of the sidewalk, and neither the sidewalk nor the facility can be reasonably relocated to accommodate both the sidewalk and facility. 3, the topography would require construction of a retaining wall more than 4 feet in height to accommodate the sidewalk. 4, there is planned roadway or infrastructure improvements scheduled to be implemented within the next 5 years, which would require the removal or relocation of the required sidewalk. 5, other unique or exceptional circumstances exist which render the requirements for sidewalk installation unreasonable, impractical, or inconsistent with the intent of the City of Clarkston Code of Ordinance. C, the fee in lieu of sidewalk construction shall be calculated based on the average of 2 independent cost estimates obtained from qualified contractors, both of which shall be submitted by the applicant. The city engineer shall have the authority to reject any submitted estimate deemed to be inaccurate, unsubstantiated, or otherwise unreasonable. D, all approved fees in lieu of sidewalk construction shall be paid in full prior to the issuance of any building permit associated with the proposed development. E, nothing in this policy shall be construed to grant exemption from sidewalk installation requirements for any future building expansions, parking lot expansions, redevelopments, or changes in use that would otherwise trigger sidewalk installation pursuant to the standards set forth in the City of Clarkston Code of Ordinances. F, the funds allocated from the fee in lieu of sidewalk construction shall be separately accounted for and may only be used to install new sidewalks or new pedestrian facilities. G, any applicant aggrieved by a decision of the city engineer denying a request to pay a fee in lieu of sidewalk construction may file an appeal to the city council within 7 calendar days of the date of the denial notice. A formal appeal application shall be submitted to the Planning and Economic Development Director, who shall place the appeal on the next city council regular meeting agenda. H, appeals from a final decision by the city council regarding a request to pay a fee in lieu of sidewalk construction by an aggrieved party may be made to the Superior Court of DeKalb County pursuant to the petition for review process established by the state general law. And on this one, staff recommends approval of this, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended deferral of this text amendment for staff to include timelines for using the funds or criteria for banked money to be used for large approved plans. And with that, I will turn it back over to the mayor for any questions.
Okay, thank you. And City Attorney, you reviewed this and you're good with everything?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Richard and I worked together on this, and I am happy with it.
All right, thank you. And council, you had any comments? Councilman
So
Carroll.
the first comment is I don't see it in my packet. I could be missing it.
Gotta flip a little ways towards.
Looking at the online version.
Yeah, it's on 7E.
It's about this far in.
Did I miss it? Do y'all have it in yours? Okay, maybe I'm missing it.
Page 195.
195, okay, I'll go down there. But the other question I have is, so I guess my concern is that I feel like we're basically taxing people that renovate or develop and forcing them to pay for the sidewalks, when I really think that should be a public good that's more broadly paid for. Because you're basically saying if you renovate, you have to pay this extra fee for a sidewalk, as opposed to the additional costs you're already making if you renovate your home to pay higher property taxes. And I just think a sidewalk is a more general public good that should be funded more broadly rather than, you know, kind of discouraging redevelopment of your or renovation by taxing that particular thing. The other thing I would recommend is just simplifying it by just making it as a matter of right to do it there, to opt out rather than having this complicated procedure, because it seems like unless the city is planning to build a sidewalk there, in which case the city could just take the money and do it more efficiently itself by doing a long stretch rather than going through this long procedure of appealing and, you know, all these criteria. I would just say as a matter of right, if you don't want to build the sidewalk and you'd rather just pay the money in, you can do that, and then a quick procedure to estimate how much that would be if you're going to do it at all. But those are my two concerns.
Okay. Any comments about that? Councilwoman Hood?
Yes, Councilman Carroll, can you explain the by right thing? So if somebody was redeveloping property and there were sidewalks on either side of their property, are you saying that they would have?
If they're that could be the one exception. If they're the only one on the block that doesn't have a sidewalk and they're just connecting a gap, then sure. But other than that, I don't think they should be required to build it. Like, there's no reason why, if the city wants to build a sidewalk down the street, the city should just do it all at once rather than make the developers do it bit by bit. That'll just be more efficient, and it's better just to have them pay it in. I think of it more like the tree bank option, right? If you tear down a tree because you're building something, you have the option. You can either plant the tree or you can make a deposit. And there's not like a long procedure that you have to go through to appeal to pick between those options.
Yes, sir. So on this, this would just be between the developer and the city engineer. unless the city engineer denies it and they have the right to appeal to you all. So this would be handled at an administrative level unless there's a disagreement between the developer and the city engineer.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is that it just seems like that there's a long process for discussing it. And really the only scenario would be the one brought up by Councilman Hood, or if there's literally a patch with no sidewalk and there's sidewalk on either end, I could see requiring a sidewalk in that situation. But other than that, it should just be, I think, like the tree bank. You know, it's a matter of right. You can choose yourself whether you plant more trees or pay the city to plant trees. So I think that would just be a simpler process.
Okay. Any other comments?
I had a couple of other questions.
Okay, go for
or
it.
comments. I think the issue of requiring sidewalks probably needs to be explained in a little bit more in our code, where and why and that sort of thing. And the situation where I brought up, you know, if there's sidewalks on either side of the property, yeah, you should have to build the sidewalk. But you could also have a situation where a preponderance of the properties in a neighborhood have sidewalks. They don't happen to be on either side. So I think that we need to look into that with a better view of this. And I would also say that the decision about whether a sidewalk should be required or shouldn't, to me, goes beyond an engineering question. I think it also has to do with planning and development. And so having it strictly under the purview of the city engineer, I think avoids the situation where we're really talking about how to make the city walkable. And yes, the engineer needs to have a role in that decision making, but I would rather see that the city manager make that as an administrative decision based on the input from the city manager and planning.
Okay. Any other comments or feedback? Councilman Perkins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding my colleague here. So you're saying instead of there being a city engineer review process, we would just establish criteria, and as long as it met the criteria, it would be. You're saying when you're saying by right, you're saying in section B.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
1616B, instead of having the city engineer there, you would just say as long as it hit. You know, we might need to clarify the criteria, but as long as it checked the right boxes, they could choose one or the other.
Right, unless it's like literally a scenario where there's sidewalks on each side and it's the one that doesn't have a sidewalk, then I think other than that, you can have by right to just pay it in, because it doesn't really make sense to build a sidewalk patchwork by patchwork, having like one neighbor do a sidewalk and then 10 years later another neighbor do another part of the sidewalk. That's just really inefficient. What's efficient is to have the city decide where we need city sidewalks, take tax dollars, build a sidewalk all at once. And to do it otherwise, I think is aesthetically unpleasing. I think most people would agree with that, have a sidewalk here and then nothing, and then maybe 5 houses down another stretch of sidewalk. It doesn't look good, it causes more water runoff. It's just not a good way to plan. So I think the better way to plan is just to have the city do it all at once rather than trying to offload it to private developers who do like a lot at a time every couple of years.
Okay. And so I guess follow up then, I think I would be, as long as we're not leaving money on the table, you know, where we're just waiving the fee completely, I think I would agree with that. I think that does make the administrative process more efficient, which is something we've heard from developers and just in general. It's like, hey, you know, there's a lot of ways we could make things, you know, faster. I know y'all have done some really great work, you know, moving us in that direction. And so I would support, as long as we're not waiving the fee, we're still collecting the money, you know, having something where it's a little more automated than that. I would say I do think this does need to eventually play into a larger strategy for where we're putting sidewalks. I think the Clemsil agenda item we just discussed, you know, highlights that, you know, and I think, you know, having some plan for how this money gets allocated, you know, would, I think, make it a lot more, help us be a lot more, help us be strategic with how we're using it in the future. So.
Thank you. City Manager, did you have any comments you want to make on this item?
I kind of agree with all of the comments. I like Council Members Councilmember Hood's perspective about the decision not being in the hands of the engineer, and that it being, I think the engineer should make recommendation to the planning director, right? And then those perspectives can go another step further and come to my office for review and signature. With regards to Councilmember Carroll, I think simplifying the process, I think a by right process could work if criteria are established, and I think that what we're trying to do with this ordinance is what you are explaining, right? So
Right.
You say that it's not efficient for a developer to have to put a sidewalk in, piece by piece. I think that's what this ordinance prevents, right? So we're kind of surplusing, I guess, this money for a time when we could use it to put in sidewalks or expand walkability in other areas or that area, right? Is that correct?
Yes, so if you meet those 5 criteria, then you automatically qualify.
Right, right. And I think to Mr. Perkins' point, I wanted to ask this question to Richard. In the comprehensive plan, there's a section about transportation and accessibility, right, that we can include some, I guess, recommendations or implementation ideas in that section of the plan about where we put sidewalks and how we increase accessibility and walkability, right, around the city, right? So we can tie it to the comp plan.
Okay, so it sounds like taking some of what Councilwoman Hood in terms of adjusting the overall process perspective, taking into account what Councilman Carroll brought up, and then maybe also including as part of the next phase of it what our outlook is in terms of sidewalks within our community and the strategy behind the prioritization of those sidewalks. Is that fair to say?
I did have one more thing to add, if I may.
Yes.
So I did have one more question on paragraph F on the limitations of the funds. The funds collected from the fee in lieu of sidewalk construction should be separately accounted for and may only be used to install new sidewalks or new pedestrian facilities. Is that broadly enough? Because I could see this being anything, we might also want to repair or expand an existing sidewalk. And right now, all the language is around new facilities. Would that limit us in any way? Because I think the goal is pedestrian safety, right? It's walkability, pedestrian safety. And so my concern is that language that we're using right now might limit us to being able to, renovate existing sidewalks, do repairs, expand existing sidewalks, or come up with something that isn't defined. But I don't know if that's a question for you.
Yeah, I think we could say install or repair for both. Install or repair sidewalks, install or repair new pedestrian facilities.
Okay.
And I'm guessing the new pedestrian facility would encompass, we could say that's a crosswalk or something that involves a structure.
Ramp, bridge.
Skywalk. While we're dreaming.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Okay. Council, Vice Mayor Johnson.
My question is on C. I think on C. It says, the fee in lieu of sidewalk construction shall be calculated based on 2 estimates and the decision of the engineer. If we're going to require them to pay that or portion that large, they're still producing the sidewalk. So I agree with Councilman Carroll that if we could just get a fee or something close to a fee opposed to an estimate, because if you're going to pay $1,500 either way, they're not going to care at that point. So it's still not going to do what we're wanting it to do.
Yeah, and we can definitely look at that. This was just how the tree ordinance is written, so we took it from that.
Right.
But there are several codes out there that do different types of dollar amounts, like $17 a square foot or something like that. So I can definitely look into some of those and what it goes for in the metro area now.
Okay, so recap, just to make sure.
Can I add on that? We might want to program a review on that, so we don't end up with a 5 cents a square foot rate and
On an annual
35
basis.
Yeah, annual basis. It gets
Right.
calculated.
Or
about
just
like
adjust
that.
it for inflation.
So just to kind of recap, what I heard was we need to redo the process to be inclusive of the director as well as the city manager. I also heard that we needed to change it to the install and what was the other piece that you wanted?
Repair.
Install or repair, making sure that there was one other piece that you had.
The by right.
The by right. Okay. Yes.
From my view, the by right and the city manager decision are antagonistic.
Okay.
'Cause either the developer gets to decide or the city gets to decide.
I think unless it's a scenario that Councilmember Hood brought up where there's literally sidewalks on either side.
Right. So we could write it where it would not be it wouldn't be a city manager decision anymore.
Right.
It would say unless, and if that's going to be the criteria, the two adjoining properties both already have sidewalks, then the developer can choose to do this. And I mean, that's fine with me if that's how y'all wanted to do it. I just want to make sure I make the adjustment you want.
I think it makes sense to take the thing off the city manager's plate to
Yep,
just,
that's one less thing unless you want that.
unless you, I assume you don't want to be looking at every permit and being like, do we need a sidewalk here or not?
Well, when it comes to planning and development and future development and growth of the city, of course I want to see that. I think that's a part of my function. And I guess I need to understand a little bit more about the by right, because I don't think that would be the only scenario, right?
Right.
That's a scenario, right? But if you have criteria, you can put those criteria against multiple scenarios, right? And then come back with a recommendation from those experts.
Right, but it's a trade-off because you're adding complexity to the process, right? You're making it slightly harder for the developer. They have to meet the criteria, they have to get an estimate, they have to go through all those things. Every time you add a barrier, you make it higher cost, which ultimately cost gets passed down to whoever buys the
That
property.
was one of the other pieces we just talked about, was to have the engineer to provide the amount to say per square foot.
Right, you could limit that.
They could
Right,
limit,
yeah,
That
so
would
we got
something
that
like that.
part, so
Yeah.
that's
if I
one
can
to,
add
yes.
one more thing. So I think too, for talking about by right, I think it would need to say that both adjacent, like neither adjacent property has a sidewalk. And so, because you might have something where you're coming off of a corner, at which point, so you have a sidewalk that's wrapping around. So I think if neither property on either side of the property in question has a sidewalk, then we'd say by right. Are you okay with that, Councilman Carroll?
Yeah, that's
And then-
fine.
And then we say, but if there's one, you have to connect it.
So to that, just make sure we have the price per square foot with some language that we would make adjustments for inflation or increases for that price, so it doesn't stay constant at that price. And then it sounds like what we need for you to do is to use your time to figure out possible recommendations in terms of different scenarios, just like we just heard today. Right. Right.
Right.
Right.
I think cities have done a lot of different variations of this.
Yes. Okay. All right. Councilwoman Hood.
No, I was just going to reiterate that the one gap is an obvious one, but it would also depend
Yeah,
on the
put your
size
one.
of the street and how much, if it's one of our major streets that gets a lot of pedestrian traffic, then that needs to be considered, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So it's probably not going to be done by next week, but you're going to do a yeoman's job.
Yeah, we can get done.
Okay. All right. Okay. Do the yeoman's job. All right.
It's an overachiever.
Don't come. He has to do this. So that's why we're talking about it now. Okay. We did say public. Did you have any comments? Because this one. Yes.
Did you include was there anything from planning? We were waiting on planning.
Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend a deferral to add in timelines for using the funds or criteria for banking the funds for larger group projects. They wanted to see the money be used within the year that it was received or be banked for an approved project, just so it's not just sitting out there and not being used.
Right. And that was one of the things where we said long-term strategic,
Yeah.
so that you set priorities in terms of sidewalks.
And if you would like to recommend a deferral on this as well, that would give me a full month to go back. They could review it again and you all could come in.
Okay, that would be good.
That'd be great.
I think that's
We
one
don't
better.
want to
yeah.
have to.
I want to rush it.
We're not trying to rush it, and we're not
Yep,
trying to
that's
push
fine.
it. That's fine. Okay, so we'll have that as deferral.
I mean, I kind of want to see how fast he worked. He seemed really confident.
Yeah, I mean, he did. I mean, I was
I
going
already
to push
have
the
my
limit.
stopwatch out.
Okay.
You thought about it, didn't you?
You thought about it. Not gonna do it? You gonna do it? Okay.
One more.
All right, one more. Okay, so we'll do that. Thank you. Public, did we have any comments from the public? Yes, public, come on up and state your name.
I'll be super brief. James Smith. I'm a developer that's looking to develop in the city of Clarkston. The only public comment that I would have is just to just make it pretty clear of who is required to pay into the fund and not. And so just the comments that you made about the as of right is great. I think the juxtaposition between the manager versus as of right, I think it has the more clear that it can be, the better it is. And the rate adjusted for inflation, yes, it's an additional tax that basically everyone pays into, but I mean, even questions of like, you know, at what level of a renovation to a house, or is this only new development? You know, all of those things, just making sure that that's pretty crystal clear in the code and the ordinance, so that the developer knows what they're getting into as they're reading, and they'll factor it into their costs. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, thank you. We'll have this probably as a deferred item, but we'll keep going from there. Next, we'll have 7F.
Point of order question on that. Are you saying regular, we'll vote to defer it at the meeting? Do you want to, can we do that as consent?
You want
to defer it to
Consent
the work,
defer?
November 2nd work session?
I think so. Whatever
Yeah,
Richard said.
It's November 2nd.
Can we do that? Stephen, can we do that as a consent? Just consent to defer to the next work session, or do we need to actually vote on it?
The last one, it's October 27th.
October 27th, so we can have that.
There's no legal problem with deferral on the consent agenda.
Okay, so we can do that if you all want to have that deferred to the October
28th.
28th. Get that date right. Have an
It's
extra
a
meeting.
Tuesday. It's a Tuesday.
Okay.
Unless your calendar got something on
And that's the work session.
October 28th, yes. October
That's
28th,
right.
deferred, consent, deferred. We're all good? All right, thank you. We'll now move to F, which is to discuss the Clarkston Housing Summit 2025 recap by the Atlanta Regional Commission. And Kristen, you did a great job. And this is more for us to make sure in terms of the report and recognizing and voting to accept the report as received. Council, did you have any questions? Okay, none?
Great work.
Great work. Thank you for the partnership. So at this time, can we have this as a consent item? Okay. Consent, everybody?
And this is to accept the report?
Yes.
My only concern on this is, and it doesn't need to.
Talk, you put your microphone on, please.
Doesn't need to be changed, but one of the recommendations is to do the 2026 LCI, and we're doing the comp plan at the same time. This by accepting the report, we're not committing to this, correct?
No, these are the recommendations
Thank you.
from the Atlanta Region Commission. That is something that we are not required to do.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, consent. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you all. Thank you. We'll move to G, which is to discuss a resolution to declare a police vehicle as surplus property for the city of Clarkston. Chief Hudson.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. This is to declare a 2015 F-150 as surplus property. It has 131,000 miles, 175, and we've spent since 2022 a total of $18,872 on it.
Okay. Council, did you have any question? Okay. So when we have this as surplus, what happens then with the vehicle?
It gets sold.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Consent?
This is the chief's bill, that truck. Okay.
All right. Any questions? Okay. Consent? Consent. All right, consent. And don't move too far, Chief. I think you're next. H, which is to discuss the request to purchase a 2025 Ford Expedition, including the necessary equipment to replace the police chief's Ford F-150 in the amount of $47,900 to be funded from SPLOST 2 and the Federal Seeds Fund.
Yes, ma'am. You just read the entire thing. You know, it's a 2025 Ford Expedition, and I'm sorry about the typo there. It's a 2053, but sorry about that. But yeah, it's $47,900, and none of the money would be coming out of the general fund. It would be coming from SPLOST 2 and Federal Seizure.
All right, any questions?
It's straightforward to me.
If you get rid of one, you gotta buy new ones.
I know. City Manager.
Just to clarify for the council, this is the quote under state contract?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, consent?
Yep.
Okay. All right, keep it going. Next, I, which is to discuss a resolution renewing the existing contract with Icon Filmworks for a public meeting, video recording, and related services in the amount of $38,400 to be funded from the general fund effective October 9, 2025. And that is Clerk Mitchell. City Manager Miller Thornton.
Yes, ma'am.
There we go.
So we are proposing that council elect to renew the existing contract with Icon Filmworks. We have some substantially new equipment, and we have some additional projects that need to be completed for this building. His current contract is up as of today. Yes, today, and so no, next week. Next Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, next Tuesday. And so we would ask that council elect to renew the contract under the current terms. Okay. So no terms are changing. It's an 11-month contract as approved last year with the same amount, in the amount of $38,400 being the maximum amount to be spent under the contract.
Okay. Are there any questions from the council?
Consent?
Councilwoman Bell.
So my question is less about the contract. I know
Okay.
we discussed this before around the renewal of this, right? And I know we have newer equipment, but is the 11-month gonna be substantial for us to like migrate over to figuring out how we're gonna use the new equipment? Because I think that was a discussion that we had last year this time.
Okay, so let me clarify. Is the question whether or not we in-house will be able to use the equipment?
Yeah, that was the discussion that we had, because you just mentioned there's 11 months And you also mentioned the terms and conditions of this contract wouldn't shift or change.
Mhm.
But what we discussed, and you said new equipment, so that's what
Mhm.
brought me to the thought process.
Okay.
But we discussed last year, and my council colleagues, please remind me if I'm incorrect, that by this time this year, that we would either figure out how to use the equipment internally, and then we can even have somebody that is a contract that helps us with it until we could find somebody internally. But it wasn't to move forward. My concern is the 11 months.
Okay, so we do have termination language in the agreement. So if we do get to a circumstance within our capacity, employment capacity, right, to have somebody internally to operate the equipment, then we have the option through the termination clause to get out of the contract and then move forward with. Is that the question? Am I answering that right?
You answered it, but
Okay.
I still don't get the result that we all discussed,
Okay,
which was us being able to use the equipment internally and not have to go into like a full contract, and also have to use the
Okay.
icon that's long.
I understand. I think we have,
Yes, go ahead.
Councilwoman Bell, maybe just to answer your question, I use it every month, so I can fully function the system that we have, if that answers your question. I'm not sure what else it is that you're.
yeah, but you don't come to city council meetings and you don't put up you don't help with the issues that we have using the equipment when we have other meetings outside of city council, when we need, video and audio services for trainings and all that. You don't do that.
That part, but as far as court
Mhm.
recordings and videos, all that.
Okay, I got
Staff uses it.
Okay.
So
And
we'll
thank you
work
for
through-
bringing that point up, and
Right. One more.
yes, go ahead.
Just one more thing. And so I thank Ms. Lillian for bringing that point up. I also want to say that during the last millage rate cycle, we cut out a substantial number of positions, right? And so we are trying to work through what we currently have on our plate, keeping technology going. We don't have a dedicated IT person, so sometimes we do call James call him or Icon for those IT related audiovisual capacity type things. And so if it's the council's pleasure that we move forward with finding somebody, because I do want at some point to recommend a contracted ICT service where we have somebody on the ground a couple of days a week, then we might be able to kind of combine those two. But if that's the way the council would want us to look at this.
Okay, so I know Vice Mayor and then Councilman Perkins.
Yes, my question was,
Put your
I wanted
mic
to
on.
know, to what extent court use the equipment during the week? Does he come to those courts, or they're not streaming?
They're not streaming.
Not streaming, okay. So it's just,
She's just
the
cutting on the
audio.
microphone, and the
Okay.
recorder.
Okay.
Right, so they're not streaming.
that was my question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and Councilman Perkins.
Thank you. So I just want to make sure, so the amount, like for those call outs, is that captured within the total amount for the contract? Because I noticed there's some stuff for like change orders and things in there, but we're still underneath that.
That's
The
correct.
3,000, okay.
That's correct.
And I would say, just to directly answer your question from my perspective, I do think long-term, maybe this, because I agree with my colleague, Councilwoman Bell, I think the idea behind this was eventually we would transition to being able to operate things internally. And we may be going on longer than a year with that. I think it's been a minute since we had those conversations.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this has gone on, for a bit. And so I think I would like to see maybe this being the stepping stone into transitioning to a full-time on-site, maybe someone who can handle the IT requests. I know that's been a huge issue for y'all, just in terms of system downtime and everything else. And then maybe having the AV management, just that tech support
That's a part of that.
piece being a part of that as well.
Okay.
Whether that's through a contractor or a full-time person.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Bell.
So I just want to make it clear that I have less of concern about the contract. I think the terms of it, which focus on solely the meetings, is the bigger. If we need somebody for risk management, IT issues that we have, like I think that the contract needs to speak to that and not just solely to the meetings. Because I know we transitioned to a new space. We got new mics. Y'all got new setups. We're trying to reduce risk of people tapping into our system. And I think if we need to elongate that, but I mean, just folks that have history with the city, you know that like a lot of the meetings and like the screening, all that was held by one of the staff. And I know we cut the staff, but the clerk, Tamika, you know, they handle that on a computer screen right there. And so we were just trying to be mindful of the cuts of the staff and some of the other cuts that we have had to make to ensure that we're working in the most proficient manner.
Right. So we'll be glad to look at the terms over the course of this week and see what we can present that would speak to the council's concerns, and I'll have a more, I guess, formulated plan for how we move forward and present that as well.
Okay. All right. So this is a regular agenda item. Did we have any comments from the public? Okay. With that, we'll move to the next item, which is J, and that's to discuss appointing Byron Delgado to the Safe Streets for All SS4A Steering Committee, and that's Councilwoman Hood.
Yes, thank you. I was not able to confirm Mr. Delgado's availability to serve on this committee before council adopted the agenda item that had the almost all of the other appointees, and so I was finally able to confirm with him, and that's what this will do, is just add him to that steering committee.
Okay. Council, can we have this as consent? Okay. Any comments from the public? Hearing none, consent. We'll move to K, which is to discuss appointing Abdul Talib to the Safe Streets for All SS4A Steering Committee. I know Councilwoman Adi is online. However, this is in the same situation. Councilwoman Adi, did you want to say anything?
The same as Councilwoman Susan Hood. I was able at a late date to confirm with him that he was willing to serve.
Yep. Okay, perfect. Same situation. Do we have this as consent?
Yep.
Okay, consent. Anything from the public? All right. With that, I have a motion. I need a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that we adjourn the meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Meeting adjourned. See you next Tuesday.
I was just thinking with the new rule